You're watching Republic.
Thank you for staying with us. You're watching the long form story this Saturday. I'm Niranjan. It's been a newsy week, and on the show tonight we have 5 of the biggest stories that have dominated the news this last week. They've made the headlines and they've sparked debates, stirred conversations. First up, the preliminary investigation into the Air India Flight 171 crash has raised new questions. The report today, the build-up through the week. But one big takeaway: was it human error, system failure, or something more sinister? Was there sabotage? Boeing is under scanner. From Boeing to Jaguar now, the second story, we examine the fate of Indian Air Force pilots who lost their lives flying an aging fighter jet. That story is on the long form story tonight. Pilots to coaches, a young tennis star and trainer murdered in Gurugram by her own father. A heart-wrenching story of how a rising 25-year-old champ's life was cut short by patriarchy. From Gurugram to Balrampur tonight, where a self-styled godman's religious conversion empire unravels, exploiting the poor and breaking families apart. That story is on the long-form story. It's a racket that's still unraveling. And finally, on the show tonight, the political predators. We delve into the disturbing reality of ragging and terror in Bengal's campuses, backed by political protection. The truth that those backed by state power don't want you to see. We have a packed lineup on the long form story tonight. The preliminary investigation report into the Air India Flight 171 crash is out, and it raises more questions than give out answers. 241 lives were lost. Those were just passengers, 260 lives overall, in just 92 seconds after takeoff from Ahmedabad on the 12th of June, exactly a month ago. Now, for the first time, we have the timeline, the cockpit exchange, and the technical red flags. Was it human error, system failure, or something far more serious? Republic has accessed the full details on the long form story tonight.
Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. The last 3 words exchanged between the pilots of Air India 171 and the Ahmedabad ATC on the 12th of June. 242 on board, including passengers and crew. This Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner was cleared for takeoff around 1:37 in the afternoon. "92 seconds later, a mayday call and the radio went silent.
We just wanted to know, is Air India accountable for this?
Look, it's our aircraft, it's our crew. We need to make sure the investigation is well supported. But first and foremost, we want to look after the people that have been affected by this incident.
One last question. There were multiple show cause notices given. Why were they ignored?
I don't believe this is the appropriate time to talk about things that are unrelated to this incident.
In the last 30 days, India and families of passengers of 4 countries who were on board have been looking for answers. Was it human error? Was it technical failure? Or was it sabotage? A few clues have trickled in on Saturday morning. The first preliminary report is out, giving us details of what happened. What we don't know is why it happened. The answers could be in this 15-page report. A preliminary report from India's Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau was released today, which offers some critical insights into what went wrong when the Boeing 7878 registered VTA and B crashed just moments after takeoff from Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport. And here's what we know. The aircraft took off normally around 1:39 in the afternoon. It built the required speed of 180 knots, lifted off the ground and began climbing. But just 3 seconds later, both the engines suddenly lost power. The flight data shows that the fuel control switches on both the engines were moved from run to cutoff in a span of just 1 second. Now, in other words, both engines were shut down mid-air just seconds after takeoff. On the cockpit voice recorder, one pilot is heard asking, "Why did you cut off?" The other responded, "I didn't." The report details out the critical 26 minutes and the 9 conversations between the pilots and ATC. Around 1:17 in the afternoon, the ATC approves the startup of the engines. At 12 seconds past 1:19, the ATC queries if the aircraft required full length of the runway. The aircraft confirmed requirement of full length of runway 23 as seen in the CCTV footage. Around 1:25 in the afternoon, the aircraft requests taxi clearance, which was granted by ATC. At 1:32 in the afternoon, the aircraft was transferred from ground to tower control. 2 minutes later, the aircraft is instructed to line up on the runway 23. At 33 seconds past 1:37, the aircraft is cleared for takeoff from runway 23. What happened in next 92 seconds has left even the best of aviation experts astounded.
Location of these two switches. Firstly, these switches are designed in such a way that if I want to move the switch from off position to on position, it's a 3-step process. The first step, I have to lift the lever. Then it disengages from a mechanical catch. Then I push the lever in the on position, and then it slides back into the on position. Just because my finger gets caught, because my cufflink gets caught, does not mean that I can accidentally push the lever from on to off or off to on position.
56-year-old Sumit Sabarwal and 32-year-old Clive Kundar in the cockpit, between them a combined experience of 19,000 flying hours. The black box has revealed the panic over the fuel control switch. One of the pilot notices the fuel switch is cut off and then asks if the other pilot did it. The black box conversation shows the other pilot responded that he didn't do so. So if none of the pilots cut off the fuel switch, then how did this switch cut off the fuel supply to the engines?
As I have been told by the senior commander who fly 787, that in case of an engine failure or both engines flame out, there is a memory item, and the memory item says that fuel control switch on off, which happens instantly, and this sends a message through the FedEx to reignite the engines. There is also a fact that both the engines have started coming back to power, at least one has come back, but possibly the action which was initiated at a time which any aircraft across the world, if this dual engine failure happens at this flight level, it would be very difficult to recover and it would be almost impossible to restart that engine in that span of time.
This picture on page number 14 of the report shows the RAM air turbine being activated. A few seconds after takeoff, this usually kicks in when there is an emergency detected. What generated that emergency a second after takeoff? And how did the fuel switch cut off in 4 to 5 seconds? The government says there can be no conclusion at this stage.
मंत्रालय सीधा इसमें कोई दखल अंदाजी नहीं करती। AAIB एक ऑटोनॉमस अथॉरिटी है, उनके हिसाब से वो काम करते हैं। तो उन्होंने भी कहा है कि जो संवाद हुआ है वो भी सामने आया है, लेकिन उस संवाद से हम किसी निष्कर्ष पे नहीं पहुंच सकते, क्योंकि उन्होंने यही कहा है कि ये प्राइमरी रिपोर्ट है।
The families of the 160 who lost their lives in this crash have no closure. Justice is yet to be done. Boeing, GE and Air India have no line of blame in this report. But we need to be mindful of forces at play. Does a big lobby want to pin the blame on pilots who aren't alive anymore?
This case, we have very senior, very professional, very experienced pilots. I think the captain has close to 15,000 hours. The co-pilot has close to 3,500 hours. So their experience level is high enough not to make a mistake of raising the flap, which was being discussed before, or to select both the switches on or both the switches off within seconds. It is virtually impossible. That is what, when as a test pilot, I can say that this is a design aspect to make sure that there is no inadvertent selection of the switch, which is very critical, by mistake.
Nobody knows when the final report will be made public. Until then, we only hope the big names don't engineer a cover-up of the truth of the Ahmedabad crash.
Well, 3 Indian Air Force pilots have lost their lives this year alone, in 2025 alone. All flying the same aircraft, the aging Jaguar. A fighter jet that most countries have retired over a decade ago, but one that still remains in service here in India. And now the families of the fallen are asking tough questions about the fleet, about accountability, and about how many more lives we as a nation are willing to risk. Here's a in-depth investigative report.
Ambala, Jamnagar and Churu. 3 different bases. 3 brave pilots. 3 Jaguar aircraft. 3 devastating crashes.
मिलिट्री का जहाज गिर गया यहाँ जंगल में ये जहाज चढ़ा लग रहा भाई इस तोटे का जहाज
1 year 2025.
Jaguars, the battle-hardened workhorse of the Indian Air Force, the backbone of India's deep strike capability, now finds itself embroiled in controversy. In mere months, this iconic twin-engine jet has suffered 3 catastrophic crashes, casting a long shadow over its operational future.
feel lonely. I'm proud of you.
जय हिंद, भारत माता की जय, भारत माता की जय, भारत माता की जय, जय हिंद, जय हिंद.
When the steel bird went down over Rajasthan's Changur, 2 Indian Air Force pilots lost their lives while steering the aircraft away from civilian areas.
और इस चीज़ के बारे में ज़रूर वो डिस्कस करता था कि जो वो एयरक्राफ्ट फ्लाई कर रहे हैं वो बहुत ही पुरानी टेक्नोलॉजी के हैं, उनको जो है अगर अपग्रेड किया जाए, नॉट इवन अपग्रेड, अगर उनको जो है रिप्लेस किया जाए विद द न्यू टेक्नोलॉजी तो वो उनके लिए भी बेनिफिशियल है, उनके लिए सेफ़ भी है इवन कि जो है अपने जो उनके जो काम हैं, उनके मिशंस हैं वो उनको भी कंप्लीट कर पाएँ, वो खुद को भी सेफ रख पाएँ.
Among them was squadron leader Lokendra Singh Sindhu, a man of valor, grit and infectious energy. Just a month into fatherhood, he leaves behind a wife and infant son. Hailing from Rohtak, squadron leader Sindhu dreamt of flying for the Air Force since childhood, his brother recalls. He had also served in Operation Sindoor as an invigilator. The loss has shattered the family, yet their voices remain steady, holding on to the honor of a life lived in service. His family has questions, valid questions on the use of the Jaguar fleet.
जैसे MiG-21 है, आई थिंक अब ये रिप्लेस हो गए हैं, तो जैगवार जो है अभी भी एक वो एयरक्राफ्ट जो है मुझे लगता है कि जिसको रिप्लेसमेंट की अभी बहुत सख्त ज़रूरत है.
अमर रहे, विश्वनाथ सिंह अमर रहे, जिंदाबाद 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 जिंदाबाद. Anak Sheltale, Antem Bengal, Salame, Shast.
A future cut short, an engagement broken, a young life lost. Flight Lieutenant Rishi Raj Singh, just 23, killed in the 2-seater Jaguar crash. Hailing from Pali in Rajasthan, he was set to begin a new chapter. But fate had other plans. As his family grieves, a difficult question remains. What happens when young, talented pilots are made to fly aging machines?
ये हमारे परिवार के लिए बहुत ही अपूर्णीय क्षति है. होनहार लड़का था. ये जो भी चीज़ है, अब ये जांच का जो विषय क्या हुआ क्या नहीं हुआ. नए जो पायलट आते हैं उनको इतने पुराने विमान उड़ाने के लिए दिए जाते हैं.
Jaguar is by and large a very good aircraft. Is a very good aircraft, deep penetration strike aircraft. It was meant for low-level strike. It did not have the power to maintain at high level. We are not making a single engine. So this aspect was a weakness.
Back in the early 1970s, India was offered the Jaguar as it sought to replace the aging Canberra and Hunters. But budget constraints and the Soviet MiG deals steered itself towards the MiG-23 and MiG-27 as stopgap strike platforms. It would be another decade and an urgent operational need before the Jaguars finally touched Indian tarmac.
Once a Cold War icon, the Sepecat Jaguar has now faded from most global fleets. The UK retired it in 2007, France in 2005, both moving to advanced jets like the Typhoon and Mirage 2000D. Oman followed in 2014, and others like Nigeria and Ecuador grounded theirs even earlier. But while most nations phased out the Jaguar, India opted to extend its service life. Today, the Indian Air Force remains its last active operator, raising the question, how long can a legacy jet meet modern demands?
Which is true for any aging fleet. As you know, Jaguar has served almost 45 years of service with the Indian Air Force. So such problem arises with any aging fleet. The hardest would be the propulsion, followed by flight controls, and hydraulic system is also troublesome. But the most hardsome is the propulsion system.
Timelines is a big issue. That is where that Vachan part comes in. So once a timeline is given, not a single project that I can think of has been completed on time. So this is something where we have to look at. Why should we promise something which cannot be achieved? While signing the contract itself, some of the times we are sure that it is not going to come up.
Years of delayed decisions, missed opportunities and half measures have kept the Jaguar flying, but not without consequence. Because of the silence after a crash, it's not just another jet, but the system that echoes the loudest. And as another young life lost in the aging cockpit, the question quietly remains, who is truly accountable and for how long?
Next in the long-form story, a 25-year-old tennis coach who was found murdered inside her home in Gurugram in the National Capital Region. Now, the accused is her own father. 4 bullets, a licensed gun, and a chilling confession about so-called honor. He claimed honor. Was it financial tension, as he claims? Was it obsession, jealousy, and that too against his own daughter? Republic investigates the murder of Radhika Yadav through witness accounts, post-mortem findings, and her father's own words. Here's her long-form story.
Radhika Yadav, 25 years old, a tennis player, a coach, a daughter. On the 10th of July, she was at home in Sushant Lok Phase 2, Gurugram, preparing a meal in the kitchen. It was her mother's birthday. Her mother was unwell, and Radhika decided to do something special that morning. At 11 a.m., gunshots rang out from inside the house. And moments later, neighbors saw Deepak Yadav, Radhika's father, walk out of the home with a gun in hand.
This is the visual of that very residence where that unfortunate incident took place. The family used to live on first floor of this very building, and here you can see what has happened. That the information that we have received from the police sources, that at around 10:30 a.m. On Thursday morning, when the deceased uncle heard a loud noise, and after that he rushed towards the first floor, and then he found out that his brother has basically fired a gunshot in which his niece, 25-year-old niece, who is a state tennis player as well, was shot.
An eyewitness, the colony's security guard Pyarelal, told Republic he saw Deepak walk out holding a gun and say, "Humne maar diya." That is, I killed her.
हमने यहाँ बात करते हुए 3 लेडीज को मैं देखा, दीपक को, पत्नी को, वाइफ को, और 2 लेडीज और था। तो मैं ये देखा कि क्या बात के हल्ला हो रहा था, तो बारिश हो रहा था, तो मैं फिर भी मैं रुक के मैं सुना, हाँ, कि मैं क्या बात हो गया, और कहीं अगर ज़्यादा बात तो नहीं है। फिर हमने आधा घंटा तक रुक के मैं यहाँ पे सुनने लगा कि बात क्या है। फिर इतने देर में आधे घंटा के बाद फिर दीपक निकला उधर से, पिस्टल ले गए, बोला हमने मार दिया। अब इसमें दूसरा आदमी क्या जानेगा भाई, क्यों मार दिया, क्या जानेगा।
Inside the house, Radhika lay dead in her bedroom, shot 4 times from behind. Her mother rushed out from the kitchen after hearing the loud sound, initially thinking it was the pressure cooker. Radhika had been a promising tennis player, even winning trophies before a shoulder injury temporarily sidelined her game. Undeterred, she began training students and opened her own tennis academy in Gurugram.
This is the very tennis court area where she used to come and practice, and it is just at a distance of approximately 200-250 meters away from Radhika's residence, where Radhika used to live with her family and uncle. And if you see, her uncle's family used to live on ground floor, and Radhika's family used to live on first floor. When that shocking incident took place, Radhika at that point in time was making food for her mother, because yesterday itself, if you see, on 10th of July, what we have got to know, the information from the family members, that it was her mother's birthday. So that's why on her special day, Radhika was trying to make some food, and at that point in time, her father came from backside and fired gunshots.
During police interrogation, Deepak Yadav confessed. He told investigators, "My daughter Radhika was a tennis player and had won several trophies. A few days ago, she suffered a shoulder injury and was not playing actively. She started her own tennis academy and began coaching children. When I used to go to Wazirabad village to buy milk, people would say things like, 'You're living on your daughter's income.' This made me very uncomfortable. Some people even questioned her character, which deeply disturbed me. I asked my daughter to shut down her academy, but she refused. This kept causing me mental stress and felt like an attack on my honor and reputation. I was in constant tension." Gurugram police have confirmed the motive, citing Deepak's own confession during questioning. The officer stated that the accused was arrested and the murder weapon had been seized.
ये राधिका नाम की लड़की थी और करीब 25 वर्षीय लड़की है, जो कि सेक्टर 57 के किसी एरिया में रहती है। पुलिस के द्वारा उसके घर जा करके पता किया गया लेटर ऑन, तो मालूम हुआ कि ये जो राधिका है ये टेनिस प्लेयर थी और फिलहाल ये कोई अपनी टेनिस एकेडमी चला रही थी। इसके पिता के द्वारा इसको गोलियां मारी गई हैं, जिसको पुलिस के द्वारा अरेस्ट कर लिया गया है और उससे पूछताछ की गई तो उन्होंने इस घटना को अंजाम देना स्वीकार किया है।
But when Republic reached Wazirabad, Deepak's ancestral village, a very different picture emerges.
Republic Media Network's team has arrived in Wazirabad area. This is a village area of Gurugram, where this is the ancestral property of Deepak Yadav. Right now you can see the visual of this home. This is a very old home. Deepak Yadav has not visited this very residence in the last 3.5 years. So right now the Gurugram police is corroborating both their statements, because earlier, if you see, Deepak Yadav has given a statement to the police in which he has said that whenever he used to come to this very locality in Wazirabad area of Gurugram, the people used to taunt him saying that you're a person, you're that kind of person who basically takes money from his daughter, जो अपनी बेटी की कमाई खाता है. This was the statement given by Radhika Yadav to the police. And right now you can see we have arrived at the very location where people who living in this area are basically differing to that statement.
Local residents told Republic that Deepak Yadav was not financially dependent on anyone.
नॉर्मल वो था, वो अपने काम से मतलब रखता था. उसको तो अपनी बेटी, बेटा और अपना परिवार उसके पूरा ध्यान रखता था. उनको क्या खाना है क्या नहीं, जो वो कहते थे वो खाने के लिए इंतजाम करता था, सब A to Z.
He owned multiple properties in Gurugram and farmlands in and around the city and earned lakhs of rupees through it each month. Some estimated the amount to be well over 15 lakh rupees per month. Police sources say that Deepak used his licensed weapon and fired 4 times at close range. All 4 bullets were recovered from the body. Post-mortem findings confirmed the shots were fired from behind, and Radhika had no chance to react or defend herself. Radhika had also appeared in a music album titled Karwa. Team members told Republic that her father had personally accompanied her to the shoot and stayed for 11 hours. In her early career, Deepak had supported her work, even financially investing in her tennis academy. But that allegedly changed after people in his village began taunting him. Radhika's mother told the police that her husband had grown obsessive in recent months, and that he once also fought with her for speaking to her own brother-in-law. Over the past 3 days, fights between the father and the daughter had become routine. He had asked her to shut down the tennis academy, but Radhika had refused firmly. July 10th was the day when Radhika's mother celebrated her birthday. A day meant for a family moment ended in bloodshed. Outside, a coaching academy has gone silent. And inside, investigators are reconstructing a daughter's final moments. And a city watches, trying to make sense of what unfolded behind those closed doors.
A self-styled godman with a mansion worth several crores. Foreign funding, most of which came from the Middle East. Multiple bank accounts and a network that spanned across India. What began as a tip-off has now exploded into one of the biggest religious conversion rackets ever uncovered in India, not just in Uttar Pradesh. And the name at the center of this nexus, Changur Baba, a man who preyed on the poor, exploited caste lines, had a rate card for different castes, and orchestrated conversions with a price tag. Tonight we take you inside the murky underworld of this so-called preacher's empire.
कि घर के एक कमरे में अब पुलिस पहुंच चुकी है और आप देख सकते हैं कि खुद घर के अंदर 2 बुलडोजर मौजूद हैं। और ये छांगुर पीर बाबा जिसने सैकड़ों लोगों का धर्म परिवर्तन कराया और हवाला अवैध फंडिंग से अरब और नेपाल के रास्ते से बहुत सारी फंडिंग कराया है। विदेशों से पैसा लेता था, जातियों की बोली लगाता था, सवर्णों के रेट अलग थे, ओबीसी के रेट अलग थे, दलितों के रेट अलग थे। 16 लाख रुपया देता था एक धर्मांतरण के लिए।
कैसे वहां हिंदू बहन बेटियों के इज्जत के साथ खिलवाड़ करता था, लेकिन अब ऐसे तत्वों के साथ सख्ती की जा रही है।
A godman?
टियर्स ऑफ सीलिंग फैन लगातार लगे हुए हैं। आप देखिए लग्जरी सुविधाओं की अगर बात करिए तो आप देख सकते हैं कि एक रो में कितने फैन हैं।
A mansion. And a web of deceit that spread like wildfire. In Balrampur of Uttar Pradesh, a conversion cartel has been busted. An otherwise quiet town in Uttar Pradesh's Devi Patan division, Balrampur is now thunderstruck by a raging controversy, igniting a nationwide debate over massive conversion racket. On 8th of July, bulldozers rolled on to the main Utrola Mankapur road in Balrampur, demolishing the palatial residence of a self-styled godman, Jalaluddin Shah, alias Changur Baba. Once a humble bicycle vendor selling rings and amulets, Jalaluddin, who came to be known as Changur Baba, reinvented himself as a spiritual guru and is now at the heart of serious allegations of orchestrating large-scale religious conversions. In under a decade, he rose from obscurity to building an empire worth over 100 crore rupees. Now, he finds himself in the custody of the Uttar Pradesh Anti-Terrorism Squad.
एसटीएफ की जांच में ये प्रकाश में आया कि इन्होंने इस गैंग ने 40 से ज़्यादा अकाउंट में 100 करोड़ से ज़्यादा विदेशी फंडिंग प्राप्त की है और इस धन का इस्तेमाल धर्मांतरण में और लोकल प्रॉपर्टी के परचेज में किया गया है।
पहले ये जो बाबा था आज से 3 दशक पहले, यानी कहा जाए कि 30 से 40 साल पहले छांगुर बाबा महाराष्ट्र जाता था, वहाँ पर पत्थर बेचता था, जो अंगूठियों में जो पत्थर लगते हैं। पत्थर बेचने के साथ साथ उससे वहाँ लोगों से मुलाकात होती है, नीतू से मुलाकात होती है। जो नीतू उसके हस्बैंड नमीन, उसने पहले नमीन को और उनकी पत्नी को, उनके बच्चों को मुस्लिम धर्म में कन्वर्ट करता है। फिर ये धीरे धीरे इसका नेटवर्क बढ़ता है। वो लोग पढ़े लिखे थे, विदेशों में बात होता है, नीतू का विदेश में आना जाना होता है। भारत में धर्मांतरण को लेकर वहाँ बात होती है। लोगों ने, अरब के लोगों ने पैसा देने का काम किया कि ताकि जाओ आप धर्मांतरण के काम को करो, उसको बढ़ाओ और साम्राज्य अपना बनाओ। धीरे धीरे करके इसके पास पैसा आने लगा, पैसा आया, फंडिंग हुई। इसने हिंदुओं की जमीन, यानी जहां मैं खड़ा हूं ये खेत है हिंदुओं का, इसको इसने खरीदा, लालच में खरीदा, दबाव में खरीदा। उसके बाद इस अवैध साम्राज्य को बनाया।
Reports suggest that 106 crore rupees allegedly funneled in through 40 bank accounts, primarily from Middle Eastern sources, fueled Changur Baba's extravagant empire.
कहने को तो वो छांगुर पीर बाबा था, लेकिन उसने कहीं न कहीं धर्मांतरण का खेल खेला, विदेशों से पैसा मंगाया, करोड़ों रुपए में फंड आए और लालच देकर जातियों में बांटा था। सवर्ण को 16 लाख, ओबीसी का अलग रेट, दलित का अलग रेट, इस तरह से उसने कैटेगरी बनाया हुआ था।
His 3 crore rupee mansion sprawled over 3 bighas, housed more than 40 rooms, was fortified with 10 CCTV cameras and secured by an electric fence. Inside the compound, foreign breed dogs, imported horses, and even a marble floored stable painted a vivid picture of opulence, all allegedly funded by the conversion syndicate.
सोचिए कि घोड़ा जहां पर रहता है उस पे टाइल्स लगाया है, चाहे घोड़ा फिसल जाए उसको चोट भी आ सकती है, लेकिन नहीं, यहाँ पर उसने पूरी तरह की सुख सुविधाएं दी हैं, जहाँ पर जैसे कि इंसान रहता है। कि यहाँ पर छांगुर बाबा अपने घोड़ों को रखता था और वो घोड़ों का शौकीन भी था। हालांकि घोड़े यहाँ से जा चुके हैं, अस्तबल इस समय खाली है, जो और भी पशु थे वो यहाँ से हट चुके हैं।
Authorities claim Changur Baba and his network forcibly converted over 1,500 individuals, including hundreds of Hindu women, through deceit, coercion, and monetary lures.
छांगुर बाबा और जमालुद्दीन स्वयं को एक हाजी पीर के रूप में प्रोजेक्ट किया करता था और स्वयं को हाजी जलालुद्दीन बताता था। उसने उतरौला कस्बे में जनपद बलरामपुर में काफ़ी बड़ा एक नेटवर्क एस्टैब्लिश किया हुआ था और ये नेटवर्क लगातार धर्मांतरण के कार्य में लिप्त था।
Alongside Changur Baba, his close aide Neetu Rohra and her husband Naveen played key roles in what officials describe as a conversion for cash industry.
उतरौला में वर्षों से 3 दशक से छांगुर बाबा अपना साम्राज्य चलाता था। लोगों को अता पता नहीं था कि छांगुर को सब पीर बाबा समझते थे, लेकिन उसका काला चेहरा सामने आया कि किस तरह से विदेशों से पैसा लेके यहाँ गरीब लोगों में बांटता था और अपने आप को नायक कहता था, अपने आप को मौलवी कहता था।
The duo reportedly targeted poor Hindu families, luring them with promises of healing and money.
जो ये गैंग है उनके भी फाइनेंशियल अकाउंट्स का ट्रांजैक्शन और उनके द्वारा खरीदी गई संपत्तियां, अक्वायर किए गए बिल्डिंग्स इत्यादि सभी की जांच भी होगी ताकि पता चल सके कि इस गैंग की अवैध गतिविधियां और क्या-क्या हैं।
One of the victims who fell prey to this huge scandal and was reconverted to Hindu religion with all sacred rituals spoke to Republic.
मेरे साथ फ्रॉड किया गया था, बलात्कार किया गया, हिंदू से मुसलमान बनने के लिए प्रताड़न किया गया, ये सब छंगूर बाबा के किया कराया है।
The gang reportedly had a fixed caste-based rate card for religious conversion of Hindu women.
इनका रेट कार्ड हुआ करता था अलग अलग बिरादरी के लोगों को कन्वर्ट करने के लिए। जिन लोगों ने इस व्यक्ति के खिलाफ गवाही दी है उनके अनुसार एक फॉरवर्ड कास्ट व्यक्ति को कन्वर्ट करने के लिए 15 से 16 लाख रुपए एजेंट को दिए जाते थे।
The Uttar Pradesh ATS has now stepped in. Changur Baba and his son Mehboob have been arrested. Their close aides Naveen alias Jamaluddin and Neetu alias Nasreen are already in police custody. As security agencies tighten their grip on those involved in this massive conversion racket, local authorities have deployed Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath's signature weapon, the bulldozer, to demolish the illegally constructed empire of Changur Baba.
छांगुर पीर बाबा का अवैध साम्राज्य ध्वस्त हो चुका है। आप देख सकते हैं कि जो आलीशान इसका जो द्वार था, जो गेट था, उसको बुलडोजर से गिरा दिया गया है, ध्वस्त किया जा चुका है। आप देख सकते हैं कि किस तरह से यह आलीशान जो गेट था आज वह पूरी तरह से बर्बाद हो चुका है।
Seizure and demolition of properties associated to the gang is underway.
छांगुर बाबा जेल में है और इसका सारा साम्राज्य ध्वस्त हो चुका है। बहुत सारे लोग भाग रहे हैं। एफआईआर में 9 लोगों का नाम है, 4 लोग बंद हैं, 5 लोग फरार हैं। तो ऐसे में यह कॉम्प्लेक्स भी बंद है, क्योंकि इनको भी डर है, दुकानदारों को भी डर है कि कहीं छांगुर बाबा का जो करप्शन है वह दुकानदारों तक न पहुंच जाए।
Additionally, the Uttar Pradesh ATS took Changur Baba to his residence for further questioning in connection with the ongoing investigation.
यहाँ पर जो उतरौला की पुलिस है पूरी तरह सुरक्षा दे रही है। एटीएस के कमांडो यहाँ पर मौजूद हैं और आप देख सकते हैं एटीएस के अधिकारी भी यहाँ पर बैठे हुए हैं। एटीएस के कमांडो तैनात है पूरी तरह से और यहाँ पर छांगुर पीर बाबा ये बीच में बैठा हुआ है। आप देख सकते हैं कि छांगुर पीर बाबा यहाँ पर बैठा हुआ है, जिससे पूछताछ किया गया है।
What followed was a blunt, unsparing takedown. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath did not hold back.
हिंदू बहन बेटियों के इज्जत के साथ खिलवाड़ करता था, पैसे में सौदेबाजी करता था, लेकिन अब ऐसे तत्वों के साथ सख्ती की जा रही है।
On the streets, the outrage grew. Hindu groups took to protest, demanding justice, demanding accountability. But this is not just about Changur Baba. This is a pattern. Last year, on 15th of July, Maulana Taqir Raza, a radical preacher, publicly vowed to convert 5 Hindu women and marry them off at a mass nikah ceremony.
इनमें 8 लड़के हैं जो इस्लाम कबूल करना चाहते हैं। धर्म परिवर्तन तो तकरीबन उनका पहले से है, आपस में वो कर चुके हैं। तो धर्म परिवर्तन की जो प्रक्रिया है वो पूरी की जाएगी और उनका बाकायदा निकाह होगा, सामूहिक।
Across India, there are growing instances where Muslim men hide their identity, lure Hindu women, convert them under false pretenses. Balrampur's truth has shocked the nation, but awareness is not enough. Action calls for commitment. It calls for an unrelenting resolve.
Viewers, what you're about to see next is disturbing. College after college across Bengal, students say they were stripped, filmed, ragged, threatened. Not by outsiders, but from the ruling Trinamool Congress student wing. From Howrah to Balurghat, the videos are out, complaints filed, and yet the leaders are walking free. The public tracks the trail of campus terror and the political protection behind it in this story.
Across West Bengal, college campuses are turning into political battlegrounds. Student unions backed by the Trinamool Congress face allegations of violence, intimidation, and even sexual harassment. In college after college, students are speaking out. At Narasingha Datta College in Howrah, a TMCP state president and former students leader, Souvik Ray, faces serious allegations. A student accuses Ray of forcing him to strip, of mocking him and filming it. Despite multiple complaints, Ray remained active on campus, seen alongside senior leaders unfazed.
অরূপ বাবু, এই সৌভিক রায় নরসিংহ দত্ত কলেজের যে নেতা, আপনি চিনতেন তো?
কোনো কমেন্ট করবো না।
আপনি তো সেই কলেজেও একাধিকবার গিয়েছেন, তার সঙ্গে আপনাকে দেখা গিয়েছে।
আমি কোনো কমেন্ট,
কিন্তু সেই ভিডিও রয়েছে তো আপনার সঙ্গে।
আমি কোনো কমেন্ট করবো না বলেছি তো।
এই ধরনের যে আচরণ, সেটাকে সমর্থন করেন? ডাক্তারবাবু, রাজ্যের একাধিক কলেজে প্রাক্তনীরা এখনো অবধি ঢুকছে, নাম জড়াচ্ছে আপনার রাজনৈতিক দলের ছাত্র সংগঠনের।
আচ্ছা, সেটা তাহলে আমার মনে হয় যে ছাত্র ফ্রন্টকে জিজ্ঞেস করুন। এটা ছাত্ররা তো ঠিক উচ্চশিক্ষা দপ্তরের সঙ্গে সরাসরি যুক্ত নয়, এটা বলা মুশকিল হবে।
কিন্তু কলেজগুলো বা বিশ্ববিদ্যালয় আপনার অধীনস্থ, কলেজে গিয়ে এরকম দাপাদাপি, কোথাও যৌন নির্যাতনের অভিযোগও আসছে।
এটা নিয়ে তো আমার বক্তব্য যেটা বলার বলেছি, যেটা ল কলেজ নিয়ে পরিষ্কার আমরা সুপারিশ করেছি যে একদম বহিষ্কার করা হোক।
যাদের যাদের নাম জড়াবে সবাইকে বহিষ্কারের বার্তা তো?
The allegations did not stop him, nor did they seem to stop those who stood beside him.
ছাত্ররা আমাকে একটা লিখিত কমপ্লেন দেয়, ঘটনাটি ঘটার প্রায় ধরুন বেশ কিছুদিন পরে লিখিত কমপ্লেন দেয়, এবং ওরা আমাকে বলে যে আমরা বিভিন্ন ল অ্যান্ড অর্ডার যে সমস্ত জায়গার কমপ্লেন করার বা ওদের যারা সিনিয়র নেতা তাদের কাছেও নাকি ওরা জানিয়েছে। তো ওরা যখন আমাকে লিখিত কমপ্লেন দেয়, তখন আমি বিষয়টা গভর্নিং বডিতে ফেলি, এবং গভর্নিং বডি কিন্তু সঙ্গে সঙ্গেই আমাদের সেই বিষয়টা নিয়ে আলোচনা হয়, এবং একটা স্টার্ন ডিসিশনে আমরা যাই যে আমরা কোনোভাবেই কোনো বোনাফাইড ছাত্র ছাড়া কলেজে কাউকে ঢুকতে দেব না। বহিরাগতদের প্রবেশ আছে, আমরা সবটা কন্ট্রোল করতে পারিনি।
But the story does not end here in Howrah, because what played out in one union room echoed in another. The college may change, the town may shift, but the abuse of power stays the same. From Howrah, the trail leads south to Kakwadeep. Another college, another complaint.
আমি এই ধরনের ছবি কোনো আমার কাছে পাইনি। এখন এর সত্য মিথ্যাটা আমি এক্ষুনি বলতে পারবো না কিছু। আমি শুনলাম, আমি এটা জানার চেষ্টা করব। সেই রুমে কিন্তু আমি দেখেছি এই ধরনের কখনো কার্যকলাপ আমি 2021-এ আসার পর থেকে দেখিনি, শুনিনি।
They were forced to carry out tasks far removed from campus life.
কলেজে যারা এক্স স্টুডেন্ট তারা তো প্রতিনিয়ত আসে, এসে তোমার কলেজের মধ্যে তাস খেলে, জুয়া খেলে, মদ্যপান করে, অনেক কিছু রিপোর্ট আছে যা আপনারা হয়তো জানেন বা মিডিয়া করতে পারছেন না। না, এরা কলেজে পড়ে না। অনেকেই কলেজে এক্স স্টুডেন্ট, আবার অনেকে কলেজে পড়ে না, তারাও তো প্রতিনিয়ত কলেজে আসে।
In Kakdweep Sundarban College, students and faculty reported misconduct inside Gymkhana building. The complaint named student leaders backed by the ruling party.
এই যে যারা বহিরাগত, সব বাবা খাদানো মা তাড়ানো জিনিস। কেউ এইচএস পাস, যার মাসাজ করছে সেও কিন্তু পরীক্ষা দেয়নি, বহিরাগত। এখানে সে তোলে আর সারাদিন ধরে বডি মাসাজ করে, ঠিক আছে। এমন হতে পারে যে মেয়ে দিয়েও মাসাজ করে, ঠিক আছে, কিন্তু আজকে এটা পুরনো ঘটনা নয়। আমি যখন কলেজে নতুন ভর্তি হয়েছি, তখন কলেজে প্রবেশ করতেই দেখেছি গেজার গন্ধে ওই গাঁজা ফাজা খেয়ে আমাকে মারধর করে, ঠিক আছে। প্রিন্সিপালও এর সাথে সেটিং আছে, কারণ নাহলে প্রিন্সিপালের একটা ট্রান্সফারের একটা ভয় থাকে, প্রিন্সিপালের একটা উপর চাপ থাকে, ঠিক আছে। তো প্রিন্সিপালের এর সাথে সেটিং থাকে।
While authorities in Kakdweep began inquiries, another video surfaced, this time from Balurghat. At Balurghat Law College, a TMCP student leader was caught on camera grabbing another student by the collar. The video went viral. The principal said the college does not endorse the act, but a political storm had already begun.
এই ছবিগুলো কবেকার বলতে হবে। এই ছবিগুলো যেটা গতকালেও ভাইরাল হয়েছে, আজকে যেটা ভাইরাল ছবিগুলো কতকার পরিষ্কার করে বলুন বিজেপি পার্টি। আজকে সুকান্ত বাবুর মতন মানুষ, যিনি একজন সাংসদ, মন্ত্রী এবং কয়েকদিন পূর্ব পর্যন্ত সে পশ্চিমবাংলার বিজেপি সভাপতি ছিলেন, মিথ্যাচারের আশ্রয় নিচ্ছেন উনি। মিথ্যাচারের আশ্রয়। এরকম কোনো ঘটনা সম্প্রতিকালে বালুরঘাট ল কলেজ থেকে শুরু করে বালুরঘাটের এই জেলার কোনো কলেজে এরকম কোনো ঘটনা ঘটেনি।
In the land of Tagore, where classrooms once shaped reformers, student politics today stands accused of fear, silence, and unchecked power. And in campus after campus, under student bodies backed by Trinamool Congress, questions are being raised about power, protection, and impunity.
That's it on this edition of the long form story. You can catch the repeat of the show at 11 p.m. when we begin the show with the detailed Air India crash report. On Sunday, you can catch a repeat of the long form story at 12 p.m. Thanks for watching.